YouTube? On tonight's episode of World Poker Tour Championship Final Tables, we are going over the great game, a Pot Limit Omaha Championship event that took place on Partypoker through the World Poker Tour event. $196,000 off for first place. We're going to play down to a winner, and we're going to see who's crowned Pot Limit Omaha champion. All right, what's going on YouTube? It's been a great week of content on the channel. This is a new series I'm going to be having where I'm going over all of these World Poker Tour Championship event final tables. The rest of them are going to be no limit. This first one's PLO. I'm excited to call this action, to learn some of the great game of Pot Limit Omaha tournaments. I've been doing a lot of commentary on these events, so very excited to go over this one. We got a great 7-handed final table here, so make sure you like the video if you enjoy these kind of content. Subscribe to the channel for more. We got a ton of videos and podcasts on my channel, and all content will be consistent coming up here for the next few months. Let's take a look at our final 7 players. We got in from Sweden on the short stack, Alfred Carlson, with this beautiful hair right here. You guys know I love that beautiful hair. He's going to be our 7th place in chips. We got Jesse Rockowitz at 12 big blinds. So these two are a little more unknown. The guys that I'm looking forward to watching that I know, we got a couple Pot Limit Omaha beasts in here, right? We got Omaha4rollz in second in chips, Laszlo Bojitas. We got Alex Manzano, longtime Pot Limit Omaha player, and also Chilean mining heir, Alexo18. You guys are old school fans of the channel. You know who Alexo18 is. We got my man Benny Glazer there, who I didn't know played a ton of PLO, but I know him as more of a great tournament player. He's got 36 big blinds. And then Mike Leah, this dude is a World Series of Poker tournament. He's like a god. Every time I see him at the World Series of Poker every summer, the guy's grinding, works hard, making final tables, plays all the games. So I'm excited to see him play as well too. He's from Canada. He's 3rd place in chips. And we got Paresh Doshé, who's more of an amateur Pot Limit Omaha player. Not a ton of scores in the past, but so I'm excited to see his mixture, how he mixes together with some of these other players. And he's in our chip lead with 96, 97 big blinds. And I heard this is a guy that doesn't like to fold. Let's get into the action. Let's see what happens. Enjoy it very much. Thanks for watching. All right, my friends, let's get into the action here. The great game, Pot Limit Omaha World Championship, World Poker Tour. Like I said, beginning doing all these World Poker Tour Championship event final table breakdowns. Shout out to my man James Dempsey, who was when we recorded this, he was in the other corner right over there. But now I'm going back over it. So he's there in honor, man. So I'm ready to watch this game, guys. Just remember, for these PLO tournaments, PLO, Pot Limit Omaha, they're a great game. You got to use 2 cards in your hand, okay? So it's like Hold'em, but not like Hold'em. So you got to use 2 cards in your hand. You have to. So if there's 4 hearts on the board and you have 1 heart in your hand, it doesn't mean you have a flush. Whereas in Hold'em, you do have a flush. So you're going to see a little different play style here. You're going to see some hands look better than others, right? You kind of want to have in these tournaments, you want to have high cards. You want to have double suited hands. You want to have big pairs in your hand. And those would be the stronger hands. Whereas at cash games, you can play a lot more speculative hands. But with these lower stack sizes, you tend to want to have big cards in your hand if you're thinking about how to play the great game PLO. So we're kind of going to get into it here. If you look around the table, you can see my man Alfred with that beautiful hair from Sweden. He's got 9 big blinds. He's a very short stack right now. It's a very interesting table here. We got 12 big blinds from a man Jesse Rockowitz from Canada. And then we got a bunch of big stacks here. As you can see right here, Paresh with 97 big blinds is chip leader. Omaha4rollz, Laszlo Bojitas. He's got 68 big blinds. Mike Leah, the World Series Poker Master. This guy's always playing the World Series Poker every single year. He's out here in Vegas. 62 big blinds. Alex Manzano, our Chilean mining ear from Chile, 59 big blinds. Benny Glazer, shout out to my man Benny, 36 big blinds. Then we got the 2 short stacks payouts right here. $196,000 first place, $146,000 for second place, $100,000 for third place. Lowly 7th place only gets $30,000 for a $3,200 buy-in, so that's a pretty big return on your investment. $196,000, not bad. Listen, I would take it down here. I would take it here. I like these graphics these guys got. They got these nice, they got this nice trophy right there. I'm liking what I'm seeing. So here we go. Ace, Queen, Jack 10. So we can kind of follow the action. It's a new setup. Let me know what you think about this setup that World Poker Tour put together for this event. It looks beautiful. It's just different to follow for sure. But they got Ace, Queen, Jack 10 under the gun. Benny Glazer in the big blind. You're going to see people defending the big blind with some marginal hands. They're getting a good price. They already got 1 big blind in. Here, there's antes as well, too. So people might be more inclined to defend the big blind. Flop comes down Jack 9-5, 2 spades. Benny flops top 2 pair. He's got the King of Spades for a high flush draw blocker. And Paresh has top pair, top kicker, and a wrap, and a backdoor flush draw with that ace 10 of clubs. You always want to have backdoors. Makes your hand a little bit more powerful. So he's going to c-bet half pot, and now Benny has a decision. He's got 33 big blinds. There's 2 other short stacks. You might just want to check call, wait for a safe turn card, but he does check raise with it here, and he's going to be putting a lot of money in here, especially with an 8 big blind and 12 big blind short stack still in play, but he's just hoping here to try to take it down. Paresh has a pretty easy decision. He goes with it here. They're going to be all in. Benny's going to need a fade. A lot of cards here. It turns an ace. That's going to give Paresh top 2 pair. Benny's going to need a 9 and a 9 only. A deuce on the river. And Benny Glazer is going to be eliminated here. So let's take a look at this hand. I mean, so during this on the flop, I was saying maybe you just check call here. Maybe you play this one safe. Most times you're going to check raise here and your opponent's going to fold. But Paresh is the chip leader. Maybe he's playing a little bit looser than average. So maybe he's got a wider range when he raises early position. Most people raise early position. They tend to have pretty strong hands. So with this hand, I think it maybe looks a little better than it is. Maybe I would have just check called, seen a safer turn, maybe played a little more conservative here, especially with those shorter stacks. He does go with it. They get it all in and doesn't hold for him. So Paresh is going to have a big chip lead here. 133 big blinds for Paresh Doshi from United Kingdom. Looks like now we're going to see the payouts here. I love these graphics. Look at this trophy. My God, man. I didn't get some graphics like this, man, from a podcast here. Where's it at? Oh, here we go. Okay, so Benny Glazer, he's eliminated in 7th place there. From the UK, takes home $30,000. That seems like a pretty, potentially a pretty big mistake by Benny there with those hands. I mean, even if you do want to go with that, let's say a cash game, you probably just want to check raise there with the top 2. But with the tournament structure itself, with the shorter stacks, I like a little more conservative play there. So let's pick up this next hand here. So we got the battle of short stacks here. 7 big blinds for Alfred. 8.9 big blinds for Jesse Rockowitz. I like that name, rocking with me. So he's got 7-5-4-4 on the button. This is a solid cash game hand. On the button with 8 big blinds, this hand is... I hate this hand. I don't like these low card hands, especially once you get called or you get 3-bet here. So he gets 3-bet by Alex Manzano with ace 9-9, a beautiful hand. That's a top tier hand right there. And now Jesse's going to have to go with it. He's only got 5 big blinds left. He's got 3.5 invested. So he's going to be all in, 32% pre-flop. I mean, that's terrible for PLO. And he's drawing dead on the flop. He's got a backdoor quadra, actually. Wait a second. He's got a backdoor quadra. Could he hit it? No, he can't. Yeah, 7-5-4-4 pre-flop here. I think that is going to be a fold as well. I think that hand's too weak. You're going to, especially if you get any action. Now, he does have a lot of fold equity because Alfred is also a short stack in the big blind, so he's going to need a pretty strong hand. So I can understand the logic, but I might wait for a little bit better spot and wait, like I said, wait for some high card hands there. I'd rather have a hand like ace, king, something there than having a 7-5-4-4 if you get any action there. Also, if you have ace, king, you block some of those high card hands your opponents can have too. So Jesse is eliminated in 6th place, takes home $41,000. Congratulations to him, Jesse Rockowitz from Canada. So I kind of took this version. This was like a 3.5-hour final table we had, and I cut it down to about 30 minutes of some of the best hands, some of the highlight hands. These first few levels, first few moments kind of the stream didn't have a ton going on here, so I included all the fun hands, all the interesting hands in here. And yeah, I think short stack play in these is very, very important. You have to understand how to play those 15 and under big blind stacks. You really got to have an understanding of what you're doing in no limit hold'em and in Pot Limit Omaha tournaments. So Alfred, my beautiful hair from Sweden's got king, 10-5. Alex has king, 9-7 deuce in the big blind, and I think a lot of players would fold this hand, but with the antes and having one big blind in there, he decides to call, and this is a very, very, very marginal hand, but you're effectively going to be all in with your opponent here, right? Anytime he flops a middle pair, he's just going to be all in with it here. So he's going to need some help, and he's going to be a 32% underdog here on the flop. Alfred has the king, 10-5. Like I said, you're going to want to have those high card hands when you are playing the short stack. Theoretically, you want to have high cards. High pairs. King, 10-5. Alfred goes all in. Alex is going to need some help. The turn's a 3, and Alex needs a 9 only on the river. Remember, you got to use 2 cards in your hand. So river is an 8. And Alfred's going to double up here. So he goes from 7 big blinds to 14 big blinds with the king. And once again, Alex spot, I mean, you do get you are getting 2.5 big blinds to call there. The 12,500 ante from each. So each player puts in a 12,500 ante. They're not using the big blind ante in this situation. So 5,100,000 blinds, 12.5K ante. So yeah, there's already a lot of money in there. $213,000 pre-flop, 230,000 chips pre-flop here. So ace 8, 5, deuce double suited. A pretty good, decent, marginal double suited hand. Not as connected, makes a lot of lower straights. Alfred here has queen, queen, 9, deuce with 1 heart here. Now he might be thinking about 3-betting here. I think this is very much on the cusp. He's got 12 big blinds. I don't think you have a ton of fold equity. Maybe you do. Paresh raises 2.5 big blinds. He's the chip leader. He's going to be playing aggressive. He does have a lot of room to maneuver. So I imagine he's going to call a bunch of 3-bets. And I don't think queen, queen, 9, deuce, very marginal. Very marginal. Even if you do, if you're not really pushing a ton of equity pre-flop, maybe you get a fold. Now, if you get a fold and you take down that additional 2.5 plus the big blind, 3.5 plus the antes, maybe there is some case to be made, but you can see the pre-flop equities here, 54% for the pocket queens and 46% for ace 8, 5 deuce. Paresh is going to call here, and 1.9 million chips in the pot, 420,000 behind for Alfred. Shout out to the name Alfred. It's a great name. He's got queens. Not a very good flop for queens. King 4, 7. Paresh has a gut shot straight draw, so he's going to need a spade or a 6 to hit his flush draw or a straight or an ace. Turns a 7. Tremendous card for Alfred. River comes down. He needs a lot of cards. The jack on the river, and Alfred's going to double up here with that queen, queen, 9 deuce. So makes a very aggressive play pre-flop with that hand. And I would like to see a little bit better side card with the deuce. Queen, queen, 9, 10. Queen, queen, 9, jack. Queen, queen, 9, king. Something of that nature to have some connectivity to make some straights there and just to block some of the other high cards as well too. But he does double up, and that's how it's done. So Omaha4rollz here, Laszlo Buitas. Omaha4rollz, whoa, shit, gonna fall back in my chair. He's one of the, he's very top Nolan Hold'em, top Pot Limit Omaha cash game player. I think he plays Nolan Hold'em tournaments too. I mean, the guy's a great player, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing anything and doing well in anything. So he raises 8, 8, 9, 4. You can see he's playing very aggressive on the button. Don't try this at home. King, king, 10, 4, just calls in the small blind, elects not to 3-bet that hand. Ace, jack, 8, deuce, beautiful double suited hand in the big blind, just calls. I mean, I think both of those hands, some players might 3-bet. I think ace, jack, 8, deuce is, a lot of players would call. Some of the other really aggressive players would 3-bet that hand. But flop comes down, 10, jack, queen, and Laszlo flops the, he's got that tunnel straight, he's got that Mexican straight there, and he decides to check it back on the flop. That's an interesting play there. He is going to induce a bet from Paresh with the blockers. He's got the king blockers in his hand. 2 pair. Also a spade draw. He's got like a, I mean, it's an interesting hand. The river, he makes a spade. He decides to check. I don't know about that check on the river there because, so when your opponent checks back this flop and calls the turn, what does he have? I think he's going to have some of these 8, 9 straights. He's going to have sets and 2 pairs, and then he's going to have some flush draws. So is he going to bet all of his flushes on this river? Maybe the low flushes he might check back. Is he going to bet the straights? No. Is he going to bet the sets and the 2 pairs? I don't think so. So I would like to see Paresh bet this hand. I think he is going for some deception. He's trying to slow play the hand, but I would like to see him just value bet this king eye flush here. Hope to get called by a worse flush. I just don't think you're inducing enough bluffs here from your opponent. I think he's trying to induce value bets from his opponent. But he played a little tricky. Maybe he's scared of the nut flush. You never know, right? Could be. We know a lot of players get, yeah, but I would like to see a bet there. I think I would value bet there. In some spots, I don't mind going for a check. I don't think he's going to check raise. I think he's just going to check call there. So here we got queen, queen, jack, 6, double suited. A beautiful double suited hand. Once again, you're going to want to have a little bit higher card with the 6, but pocket queens, double suited. Can't go wrong with that. He's got 20 big blinds here from Alfred. I love that hair, man. I mean, when I grow my hair out like that, my hair looks like that too. Shout out to me. Ace 10, 8, 7 double suited for Laszlo. He's going to 3-bet. And now Alfred's in a tough spot here, guys, because when your opponent 3-bets here, he's saying the weakest hand he has is this right here, Ace 10, 8, 7 double suited. So Alfred folds. But oftentimes your opponents don't 3-bet a ton in PLO tournaments compared to cash games. So they're going to show up with a lot of aces and a lot of kings. So your queen, queen, jack, 6 double suited, while it looks good, is actually in pretty bad shape against the range of hands your opponent's going to have, because even if they have ace 10, 8, 7 double suited, they've got a lot of equity. And if they've got kings or aces, you're in trouble. So Alfred has to lay that down. And in this tournament, we didn't see much 3-betting going on at all. So that might be a hand. A lot of you guys out there see 20 big blinds. You go, how can I fold? I got to call. But yeah, I think that's one of those hands you got to make a tough fold pre-flop, and that's what you got to do in these tournaments. So let's see here, Queen 6-4-3 under the gun from Mike. I like this hand on the button. Queen 6-4-3 double suited. I think under the gun's a little bit loose, but he decides to open it up, and he gets 2 calls behind. And then Alfred in the big blind, ace, king, king, 10. Beautiful hand when you're a short stack. He does squeeze, and now Omaha4rollz is going to make the rejam with the ace jack 9 deuce. So he's probably thinking, we have a small blind raise. Or I'm sorry, we have an under the gun raise. We have a button call. So I think there's enough money in there, and I think my hand does well enough with all that dead money out there that I can go with this hand. I think it's a pretty big gamble. I don't think I'd make this play, but he does go with it. You can see he's 36% pre-flop here, so he's not in very good shape, but with that extra money, maybe it's an okay play. So they're going to be all in here. 4.8 million chips in the pot, 40 big blinds. Flop comes down Queen Jack 5. This beautiful flop for Alfred. He flops it, open end, straight draw, backdoor quad draw, backdoor straight draw. And Laszlo's got a middle pair with a couple backdoor flush draws and backdoor straight draws. See the turn here. Turn's going to be a 7 of diamonds, so Laszlo will need a lot of cards here. Wait, no 9. 9 can't give him a straight. Ace can't give him a straight. A diamond, a jack, or a deuce is what he needs. So not that many cards. River is going to be a jack on the river. Wow, Laszlo takes it down. I mean, I guess he was 33% going to the river. So that's a big pot for Laszlo. That's going to give him over 100 big blinds. And Alfred is going to be eliminated in 5th place. I thought he fought hard. He started off with that short stack. He won a couple of those all-ins. And yeah, man, I mean, he had a pretty nice squeeze spot there, but unfortunately it didn't work out. Omaha4rollz, aggressive play, helped him out there a lot. He's going to take home $54,870 from a $3,200 buy-in. That's going to buy him a lot of nice things in Sweden. Shout out to Sweden up there. All those guys just have such beautiful hair. All my Swedish friends, man. They always got the hair. I don't know what it is up there, man. Is it in the water? Is it genetic? Is it something that they're eating? Is it, I don't know. Don't know. But you got chip stacks here. We got Laszlo, chip leader, 104 big blinds, 12.5 million chips. Paresh doing well, 11.5 million chips. Alex Manzano, 50 big blinds. Then Mike Leah, listen, man, I got a tournament expert. This guy's been playing tournaments, final table and tournaments for years. He's got 4.2 million chips. So still anyone's game here. 60,000, 120,000 blinds, 15,000 ante from each player. So Laszlo has ace, queen, queen, 8 with a nut suit. I like this beautiful hand on the button. Alex Manzano has queen, 9, 8, 6 double suited. He 3-bets here pre-flop, and I think 50 big blinds. Don't think I would be 3-betting this hand. And he gets 4-bet here, and this is probably not what you want to happen. I mean, it's a lot of money to be putting in. He's got 33% pre-flop here. And flop comes down 3, 5, 7, so he flops a wrap, and he's just going to shove here. So let's back this up. So this play right here from Alex, I think, yeah, I mean, in cash games, I don't mind the 3-bet here pre-flop. Queen, 9, 8, 6. You're going to be 3-betting your doubles, your tie hands, right? Your high paired hands, strong aces, most aces, your strong kings, your strong high double suited hands, and then you want to work in some more bluffy type hands, these Queen, 9, 8, 6 in your 3-betting range. But in tournaments, I'm not really sure if you need to be 3-betting Queen, 9, 8, 6 here for balance. Right, you're not necessarily pushing much equity pre-flop either way here. Now, we know Laszlo is playing pretty wide from the button, so he's going to be having a bunch of hands. I don't think he's ever going to really fold, and we're just going to put ourselves in some tough spots out of position. We do have some board coverage here. When the board comes 3, 5, 7, we can represent that too. But might be a little bit splashy for the tournaments, but as played, I mean, we could talk about the format too. This is a real crazy hand. So this is 100 big blinds, 12 million chips. This is a big pot here. It's going to be a coin flip. The turn's at 10 of diamonds. See what the river is. River's at 9, and Alex aggressive play is going to be rewarded. He takes down a huge pot, and yeah, man. I mean, that's just really, really gambly play. I've watched a lot of tournament Pot Limit Omaha. That is something I don't necessarily see from 2 very experienced players, where they just say, okay, I'm gonna with the Queen, 9, 8, 6. You know, especially in those PLO Poker Masters events we saw, we didn't see a ton of play like that. People just kind of saying, all right, we're going to go with it. I think a lot of players would even maybe fold to that 3-bet there. Or sorry, the 4-bet. So once he gets 4-bet pre-flop, it's not a hand that you're really folding at cash games. You're just calling and going with it. But I think in tournaments, that might be a hand. If you do 3-bet that, you might consider folding that hand to a 4-bet. So here we go. We have wow, this is like a crazy hand. I need to make sure I see this hand real quick, guys. So we got to go back here real quick. This is like a real crazy hand, I'm pretty sure. So Jack 7 5 5 raises on the button here. Ace King 10-4 double suited. Just calls a small blind. He could 3-bet, but he's been playing a little more passive style that I've seen from his hands, kind of playing more tricky. So Jack 7 5 5, 3 hearts. Flop come down Ace 10 2 deuce. So Paresh has top 2 pair. Laszlo has a flush draw, and he's got some future blockers with the 5s. Backdoor quad draw, too. Don't forget the backdoor quad draw. Backdoor straight draw. Doesn't miss it. Jack 7. So he bets half pot, gets called by Paresh. Paresh could check raise here, but I like check calling. I think we are going to have some pocket aces we slow played here, but overall, our check call range wants to include some strong 2-paired hands. And if we do check raise here, I think we want to have some hearts to go with it, or at least a straight, 1 heart blocker, a straight draw to go with it too. So he does check call the flop. The turn is a 3, and he faces a pot-sized bet. So Laszlo has a semi-bluff here with the heart draw. He also has the blockers to the straight. Paresh has top 2, and he has a straight block. He folds. I mean, I don't know what the fuck is going on in that hand, guys. I think you got to call at least one more there. I guess the logic for folding there is that it's going to be tricky to navigate on the river. Maybe he hasn't seen Laszlo do that yet in this match, so Laszlo is telling him, I have a really strong hand or a strong draw, and maybe he just wants to be conservative. But I think that I would call that turn, not necessarily super happy about it. I would call and say my prayers to the PLO gods that a safe river comes. And obviously there aren't many safe rivers, but if I didn't hit a safe river, I'd get to that point and then make a decision. But he decides to play it low conservative. He lays that one down, and I think that one could go back and forth. I think a lot of players would go ahead and call there at least one time, not happy about it. But lays it down, lives to see another day. Raises it up here, Ace-6, 4-4 on the button. Mike Leah's got Ace-Jack, 10-10, double suited. He could 3-bet this hand. Really wouldn't mind 3-betting this hand pre-flop. He just call, and he flops a nuclear, cataclysmic, North Korean, South Korean, Chinese, fucking Chernobyl, Russian. He flops a Russian wrap. All right, he's got a nut flush draw, a backdoor flush draw. I mean, listen, the guy's got everything, right? But Paresh has bottom pair, that fucking idiot set. He's got the bottom set. You know what we say, when you get all in with the bottom set, you feel like an idiot when you see your opponent's hand. Normally, you're deep stack. With these stack sizes, I don't really mind. I don't think it's an idiot set. I think it's a great set to have. But as you can see, he's going to be an underdog here, 46%. So they're going to be all in here. Mike Leah is going to need a lot of cards here. Any 9, 10, jack, club, ace. Not bad. Turn comes down. It's going to be a queen, and that's not very good. Now he needs a queen, a 10, or a jack of clubs for a royal flush. Otherwise, he's going to be eliminated. This is a great turn. 87% for Paresh. This is about what you can hope for. River comes down. It's going to be a 4. He makes the quads for Paresh from the UK. Mike Leah, I mean, listen, I look at this hand, guys, and I'm saying, how does this hand ever lose? This is one of those things you play PLO, and you're just mind blown. You're like, how did I ever lose his hand? You're like cursing the gods. How does this guy bottom set? And how does he make quads? And how do I not hit my hand? Anyone that's played PLO has said that 100% of the time. I've said that plenty of times. But my man Paresh is moving and grooving. He's chip leader right now, guys. So Paresh, the more amateur player against the 2 professionals, Omaha4rollz and Alex Manzano. And you can see $196,000 for first place, $146K for second, $106,000 for third. I mean, this is some pretty nice numbers, man. I really should have went out of the country and played this fucking tournament, man. So Mike Leah takes some $76,000, and now we're 3-handed. Let's see what we got. So we got Paresh, a little bit more conservative player. We got Laszlo, a little more aggressive player, and we got Alex, a guy that clearly is not giving a bump. So let's see what goes on here. So Laszlo raises in the small blind. Paresh is going to call big blind. Most times, if you face a raise from small blind, you're never folding in the big blind under any circumstances. So he does call. And both players got a little bit of something. Laszlo turns a set. He has a 10 blocker. Paresh has 2 pair here with an 8 blocker too. So blockers, you always want to have blockers in your hand. So he's just going to call the turn. And the river comes down. It's going to be a 7. So Laszlo makes the nut full house. And now you got to be wondering, you probably think your opponent has some type of 2-pair hand here. We block the kings, so it's unlikely that our opponent's going to have a So let's say, what does our opponent have when he calls the flop? He most likely has some type of 2-pair hand or 1-pair hand with straight draw. Once he calls the turn, now you can say, okay, does he call with the 1-pair and the straight draw? Maybe he folds those. So what likely hands does he have? Well, most likely hands are going to be 2 pairs. Maybe a set, but most likely maybe he would have raised on the flop, but maybe he wouldn't raise it on the flop. So he could have some sets, some 2 pairs, and so he might fold the 1 pairs with straight draws and turns. So when you come to the river, you say, okay, well, does he have a Jack-7? Does he have a 9-7? That's what the hope is here for Laszlo. Laszlo's getting real greedy here, going for that check raise. I think a lot of players would just bet here, especially when you have the kings. But this, maybe it's a good play. Maybe he just got unlucky here that Paresh had the king-9 in his hand. He would have called the bet. I believe he would have called the bet on the river. Maybe he would have laid that one down. But that is a very interesting play. Obviously, you can't necessarily go wrong with pocket kings on that board. But maybe you, right? I wouldn't think you can go wrong, especially when you take a look at your opponent's range. But maybe it's a pretty decent sized mistake there, because maybe even if you do get to check raise, Paresh is just going to fold the hand. He's a pretty tight player. Especially, what are you really bluffing there with on the river? Maybe you're turning a top 2 pair into a bluff. I don't think so. So here we go. King, 10-9 versus Ace, Jack, 10-7. So we saw, what did we see? We saw a lot of action going pre-flop here. 2.6 million chips in the pot. This is going to be all in. So Alex flops a open-end straight draw with backdoor quad draw, and Laszlo has the 7 and a gut shot. I mean, once in a 3-bet pot here, he's pretty deep. I don't think yet. I mean, this is really close for tournament because your opponent's telling you he's got a really strong hand. So yeah, I mean, I think he got unlucky here that he has 9-10. If he doesn't have 9-10, I think he's got a lot more equity, and he's getting the right price, but it's still really gambly, so you might consider folding here. But at cash games, you don't fold here ever. You just go with it. But in tournaments, maybe you do consider playing a more conservative here. I think I've really got to think more about these 3-bet pots here. So he's going to go ahead, go with it. Alex is going to call us a huge pot. 13 million chips, 94 big blinds here. Alex makes the nut straight on the turn, and Laszlo needs a 9 or a 9 only to stay alive here. Queen on the river, and Laszlo is eliminated in 3rd place. Alex Manzano is going to be heads up with Paresh Doche for the World Poker Tour Pot Limit Omaha Championship Final here on Party Poker. Look at this table. Look at these graphics. My God. So here's that trophy that someone might get. So Laszlo gets $106,000 for 3rd place, $196,000 up top, and $146,000 for our runner-up. So we have the experienced veteran, Alex Manzano, versus the amateur Pot Limit Omaha player, Paresh Doche. Does have some experience in PLO. We did find that out. But listen, Alex has been playing cash games for a very long time. He's been battling the Pot Limit Omaha streets a very long time. As you can see here, our chip stacks, 147 big blinds for Alex, 97 big blinds at this point in time in the match for Paresh. They're very deep stacked. This match went on for a little over 2 hours. So these two battled. Very conservative match overall. Didn't see much bluffing at all. So I cut this down into some of the most entertaining hands for you guys to enjoy. So here we go. Ace, King, King 10 double suited. A beautiful hand. He 3-bets out of position, and Paresh calls with the King 9 6-3. Loose play, but he flops trips here. And now this should be a pretty big pot right now. Especially not much 3-betting was going on this match. So Alex continuation bets here. He gets called, so Paresh could raise on the flop. If he raises, maybe he folds out even strong hands like this with pocket kings. I don't think so, but it does give your opponent to potentially put more money in the pot. So the turn is a queen, and now once your opponent calls here on the flop, what are you going to put him on? You're going to put him on overpairs. So queens, kings, jacks, a 3. Right, I think this guy Paresh is going to fold an 8. I don't think he's peeling the flop super wide even to that bet. So this queen is actually not a very good card for us because it completes pocket queens if our opponent has that. So Alex does check, and now Paresh has a decision. He decides to check back. I think it's standard. I get what he's saying. He thinks so. Maybe he's only going to get 1 street of value, but I would just go for 2 streets here. Hope that my opponent has aces or has kings, doesn't fold the turn, and then maybe decides to call the river as well. But he does check back, at least ensuring 1 street here. So the river is a 4. I mean, maybe he loses that street if the river's a club. I mean, if his opponent has a flush draw on the turn, I just like betting the turn. But as played, he gets a great run out. Alex leads the river, so Alex is just betting and praying. He gets raised, and now you're in a really tough spot because it kind of looks full of shit from your opponent. You would think that your opponent would bet a 3 on the turn. So when your opponent raises here, it's just very unusual, and a lot of players aren't going to be bluffing here. So it's tough, but you got to fold. Maybe it says maybe you should bluff here sometimes. So maybe be a very advanced play, and you'd have to have a lot of respect for your opponent to think they're bluffing here, to think about calling. But against some player that we haven't really seen bluff in spots like this throughout the entire tournament, and really haven't bluffed in single raise pot, I think that you can lay this one down. Not very happily, but your opponents, to me, it looks like they have a hand like pocket queens here. So Paresh raises, and yeah. Anytime that you, I mean, this is a very, very interesting hand here. Very interesting hand all around. Strangely played hand, but you're going to see that happen sometimes. So Alex tanks for a while here. I mean, he's saying the same thing we're saying at home. I mean, does your opponent really have it there? But think about if you played PLO, very rarely are you seeing your opponents raise you. When your opponent raises you in a real unusual spot, you kind of know the kind of players who are going to be bluffing you, right? You play with them, you see them show down bluffs. At least I want to see them show down some bluffs in some spots to know they're capable of doing something like that. But in this match so far, seen Paresh bluff a couple times, but nothing really too severe. So here we go. Paresh raises Jack 9-9 deuce, checks back the flush. Alex has top set here, so he is going to be able to check or bet this turn. He decides to bet half pot. This is pretty normal size for them. Paresh just calls with the jack high flush. His hand looks very disguised. You're going to want to check back some flushes on the flop. He decides to check back the jack 9 of spades. Doesn't think there's value in raising the turn. And then river comes down. Alex makes the full house. And now Paresh, his hand's very underrepresented. And I think you're going to have to call the jack 9, jack high flush. Unfortunately, there is going to be some hands your opponent's going to be bluffing here with, because our hand looks like maybe a 1-pair type hand with a spade blocker, maybe a straight draw, maybe a 2-pair hand. So I think that we're going to have to call jack high flush. He does call and loses a little pot to Alex. Alex here with 132 big blind stack versus the 80 big blind stack. So a lot of deep stack. We do not see this kind of deep stack play for Pot Limit Omaha tournaments normally. But here we go. Alex 3 bets 10, 9, 8, 7 double suited, or one suit, sorry. Paresh has bottom 2 pair on this board. Queen 8, 6, 4 he defended. So like I said, we didn't see a ton of 3 betting here, so I'm going to put my opponent on a pretty strong range. More weighted towards aces, kings, those double suited rundown hands, and maybe a hand like this, 10, 9, 8, 7 in there as well. Low frequency percentage of the time. So now Paresh decides to raise this flop, and I think that's really interesting because... oh man, this is really interesting. I'm curious what you guys think out there. You just kind of go with it here. When you get all in, your opponent, what are they going to call you with? Sometimes they're going to have a better hand than you. They're going to have a higher 2 pair, occasionally jack 6. Oftentimes they're going to have 1 pair with ace jack something something high cards, or they're going to have aces kings. So maybe you just try to get all in there. You just don't want to see a turn. I get the logic. It's just kind of a safe play in some ways, but it's a lot of chips to be putting in there. And maybe he just decides, hey, I want to go with it. We've been playing for a long time, and this is where I take my stand. But yeah, I don't necessarily love either option there, raising or calling, so I guess maybe you can go with either one. So here, Paresh raises jack 9, 7 deuce, ace queen 3. It's going to be a better flop for him. He's going to continue to bet half pot. Alex has bottom 2 pair and 2 backdoor flush draws. He decides to call. Thinking your opponent check calls here half pot. They're going to have straight draws, queens with straight draws, 3s with lower straight draws. Of course, they're going to have some 1-pair aces, some slow play 2 pairs. But Paresh decides to put pressure on him here. And this bet is a little splashy, but I can understand the logic. But I'd like to have some sort of equity here when I do get called, especially betting half pot. But he decides to bet half pot here with jack 9, 7 deuce. And Alex has a pretty easy check call. You're going to want to check call your 2 pairs here. Almost all your 2 pairs except 6-3. If you have that, you probably would check fold. But obviously Queen 3 with flush draws is a monster hand to be having here. So he does check call. And river is going to be a 7 of diamonds. So Alex makes the backdoor flush. Not the strongest flush. And Paresh hasn't been 2-barreling very often here. So Alex decides to block bet the river. And maybe it does get called by a strong 2-pair, maybe a set as well too. Ace, queen, queens, ace 3, something like that. If you get raised here, you can fold as well. Kind of an interesting lead here, but he does take it down. Be worried if my opponent has a blocker there and I bet and they get raised. You certainly leave yourself vulnerable there. So here we go. Queen, queen, jack 8 double suited for Alex on the button. Ace, queen, jack 7. A marginal high card hand here for Paresh in the big blind. He calls and flops top pair, top kicker. Alex has top 2 pair with 2 backdoor flush draws. Beautiful hand for him. He c-bets and gets called. Turn is going to be a deuce of hearts. So that's a really good card for Alex now. And we haven't seen Alex 2-barreling pot that often in the match so far. So he does pot, and now Paresh has an interesting decision, and he folds pretty quickly. So now you look and you say, okay, well, why is this guy folding top pair, top kicker? Now, when our opponent does bet pot here, he's saying, what is he telling us he has? He has at least 1 pair with a combination draw. So 1 pair straight draw, 1 pair flush draw. Sometimes he's going to have 2 pairs. Sometimes he's going to have a higher pair with a higher flush draw. He's just going to have a lot of equity, meaning against their hand. So instead of being out of position facing a pot-sized bet, Paresh decides to fold. I think a lot of players will call at least 1 street, and then, but there's not many good rivers for your hand. You're open for a jack or an ace, essentially, and not being a heart for the ace. So it's a tough spot, and I can understand why he folded. Very borderline fold there from Paresh, but Alex takes it down. And I mean, Alex basically was telling us he's got the hand that he had. So I think it's a very close spot for Paresh. Here he's got ace, king, jack 9, gets 3-bet by ace, king, king 8. He decides to call. He's been calling a lot of 3-bets on the button here, facing 3-bets, but all of Alex's hands have been relatively in line in terms of what he's 3-betting. He flops the trip 8s here with the top kicker, so ace 8. The hand he's playing. He c-bets pretty small, very standard continuation bet, and takes it down. Yeah, I was kind of watching this match saying Paresh's just going to need to get really lucky in one of these big pots because Alex just has a more fundamental, stronger approach, especially with these deep stacks. So maybe you ramp up variance, maybe Paresh's spot. You know, it's a play to make against someone who you might not be getting the best of, who's playing a little bit more conservative, knowing that we have long blind levels and he can kind of wait for his spots. So here we go. King 9-3. Alex has top 2 pair and the idiot set. Paresh has top 2 pair and no idiot set. So you know he's in terrible shape right now. This is the one time in your life where you're super happy to have the idiot set. So now this is going to be it. Finally, 2.5-hour match is going to come to an end. Top 2 pair for Paresh. He's going to be drawing dead to a chop. He's going to need a king or a 9. Alex is living it. He's poker hard right now. 13 inches for the title. Paresh gets raised, and he's like, oh, man, here he goes. He goes with it all in here. Huge pot for the match. Only drawn to a chop. One of the worst feelings ever. River comes down. It's a queen. You might look at your hand and say, I made a better 2 pair, but then your opponent's got bottom set. And just like that, Paresh is eliminated in 2nd place. He fought hard, but I think Alex just played a lot stronger game. Alex Manzano, Alexo18, is the World Poker Tour Pot Limit Omaha champion. I think my major takeaways here are just thinking more about those 3-bet pots. And yeah, 3-bet ranges, maybe how to adjust in them differently as the caller. And really kind of exploring that idea more is my main takeaway here, is to explore the idea of 3-bet pots and just getting better at playing those in tournaments, because I think they are different. They should be thought about differently in tournaments versus cash games. So Alex Manzano, they did make a deal here. So they both took down $167,000, and Alex won an additional $10,000 for 1st place here. So congratulations to him, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more World Poker Tour Championships breakdowns. We got a lot of great content on the channel, a lot of good stuff going up there. The channel's popping off right now. Excited to see that. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. Shout out to World Poker Tour. Shout out to Partypoker putting on these great events. And it was great to cover the event. So let me know what you think. Much love, guys. Take care. Peace out. Adios.